Morning, everybody. It's so good to see you. Apologize for getting here a couple minutes late. I guess the pastor probably should show up on time. So, no, it's good to see everybody. I hope you all had a good week, and I hope you're looking forward to what God has in store for us. This next week is a busy but good week. This Wednesday night is our Family Fall Festival. We still got several of these flyers left. There's a bunch out on that sign-up table, but if we run out, you come see me. I still have a few in my office that I can give you. This is our last chance to invite people. It'll be this Wednesday night from 6:30 to 8 o'clock. If you had signed up to make one of the little carnival games, then if you could try to get that dropped off today, Monday, or Tuesday, ideally, because on Wednesday we're going to try to set that all up, all right? So if you can try to get that to me as soon as possible, or if you're wanting to bring any more candy out, we had a really good amount donated, which is wonderful, but if you had any that you were going to try to get out here, maybe try to get that out here in the next couple of days. I'll be in the office Monday, Tuesday, pretty much all day, normal office hours, so you can call me, text me, whatever you need, and we'll get that taken care of. But be in prayer. Looking forward to a great opportunity to reach people. And also, if you're able and available that night, if you'd like to come out to serve, we still need lots of people to help run the games and help with cleanup afterwards, and also just to help reach people, just to help connect with people, invite them back to services on Sunday. That's really the goal there. And so be in prayer. That's this Wednesday night. And of course, the flyer about it, but the kids can dress up in their costumes and have a really good time. We just say non-scary, please. It is still church, all right? It's for like 5 and 6 year olds, all right? So it'll be a good family time for sure. Good opportunity to connect to our community. And tonight we have our youth night. So any teenagers that are here, we're going to meet here at 6 o'clock. We've got some good games planned and a good time of fellowship, a good time in the Word together. So we'll meet here at 6 o'clock. It'll go till about 7:15. So if you are a teenager, you've got a teenager, you know a teenager, let them know to come to Victory Baptist Church tonight at 6 o'clock, and we will have just a wonderful time together. I'm really looking forward to it. And the next Sunday is our 5th Sunday fellowship. So if you'd like to participate in that, you're welcome to sign up to bring a main dish, side, and or dessert, any or all of those things. You're welcome to do whatever you'd like. And if you're like, man, I'm just really busy that weekend, but I'll still be here, you can come. Don't worry about bringing anything. We'll make a little bit extra for you. It's just a wonderful opportunity to connect. And as God just continues to grow his church, and we've had a lot of people come our way and a lot of guests, it's just a really wonderful opportunity to connect with each other and have that time sitting at a table, meeting somebody maybe you haven't met before. So we're really looking forward to that time together next weekend. There's a few other announcements in our bulletin. We got some signups out there. We've got our men's prayer breakfast. We're going to do that instead of our Bible study next month on a Saturday. That's in the bulletin. And then we're also we're asking people to help with our inclement weather response team. So if you'd be willing to help out spreading salt, shoveling snow, whenever that does happen, and to just be added to the call list. It doesn't mean you have to be here every single time, but to be on the call list so that when we do have a need, I can call a few people and we can all come out here together and work on that. And then also, if you know anybody who does snow removal, please give me their number. Let me know. We're going to try to gather some quotes on that and try to assemble a good team. So if you know anybody that does snow removal, or if you do snow removal, maybe somebody can rat somebody out in here. No, just kidding. But we got winter weather is just around the corner. We don't necessarily like to think about all the snow and the ice and everything all the time, but my kids do. My kids love it. But we do need to be prepared for that and all that good stuff. We're thankful for you being here. If you're a guest with us, stop by our welcome table there. We've got some little welcome cards. We'd love for you to fill out a little information so we can send you a card and thank you for visiting. And we've got a little gift for you out there as well. So thank you for being a part of services today. Let's all stand together. Brother David's going to come at this time. He's going to lead us in song. So we'll all stand and we'll worship together today. Brother David.
Well, good morning. If you all like to grab a hymnal and the seats up in front of you, it'll also be on the screen. We're going to start with page 143. This is My Father's World. This is my Father's world, and to my listening ears, all nature sings, and round me rings the music of the spheres. This is my Father's world. I rest me in the thought of rocks and trees, of skies and seas, his hand the wonders wrought. This is my Father's world. The birds their carols raise, the morning light, the lily white, declare their Maker's praise. This is my Father's world. He shines in all that's fair. In the rustling grass I hear him pass. He speaks to me everywhere. This is my Father's world. Oh, let me ne'er forget that through the wrong seems oft so strong, God is the ruler yet. This is my Father's world. Because is not done. Jesus who died shall be satisfied, and earth and heaven be one. Y'all may be seated.
Amen. Thank you so much, Brother David. Good singing this morning. And this is our Father's world. I'm thankful for what He's created for us, right? We're going to be in 1 Samuel chapter 10 for our study today in our main service, right? We'll hear in the next few minutes. But I want to read from Psalm 31. I want to read from Psalm 31 this morning. It's a longer psalm, but man, there's some rich truth there that I wanted to read this morning as we just consider who our God is and that He is always there for us. So let's read together there. If you want to mark with your ribbon or a piece of paper, 1 Samuel 10, and then right now, though, we're going to read from Psalm 31. It says there in verse 1, "In Thee, O Lord, do I put my trust." Look at that next phrase. Let me never be ashamed. I hope that's our prayer every day. We have such a mighty God, but our world just wants to shame us for our faith, don't they? God, never let me be ashamed. Let my trust always be in you. Deliver me in thy righteousness. Verse 2, bow down thine ear to me. We know God always hears us, doesn't He? Bow down thine ear to me. Deliver me speedily. Be thou my strong rock for an house of defense to save me. For thou art my rock and my fortress. Therefore, for thy name's sake, lead me and guide me. Pull me out of the net that they have laid privily for me, for thou art my strength. In thine hand I commit my spirit. Thou hast redeemed me, O Lord God of truth. I have hated them that regard lying vanities, but I trust in the Lord. I will be glad and rejoice in thy mercy, for thou hast considered my trouble. Thou hast known my soul in adversities. That's a rich verse. Look at that again. Thou hast considered my trouble. Thou hast known my soul in adversities. God knows, do you know that? God knows everything you're going through. That's what this psalm is about. He knows your adversities. He knows your troubles. He knows you're overwhelmed. He knows your anxiety. He knows your depression, and He's there for you. Verse 8, and hast not shut me up into the hand of the enemy. God didn't turn us into the enemy and let us suffer and die. Thou hast set my feet in a large room. Verse 9, have mercy upon me, O Lord, for I am in trouble. Mine eye is consumed with grief, yea, my soul and my belly. For my life is spent with grief, and my years with sighing. My strength faileth because of mine iniquity, and my bones are consumed. You ever felt this way? I mean, the psalmist is just overwhelmed right now. In a low place. And I know we may not readily want to admit it, but we've been there. We're going to talk more about it in our main service, in our main sermon in a moment. And this ties in so beautifully. We've been there in grief and in sorrow and in sighing and so overwhelmed. Verse 11, I was a reproach among all mine enemies, but especially among my neighbors, and a fear to mine acquaintance. They that did see me without fled from me. I am forgotten as a dead man out of mind. I am like a broken vessel, for I have heard the slander of many. Fear was on every side while they took counsel together against me. They devised to take away my life. He's in a low place, overwhelmed. Enemies are closing in on every side. Everywhere he goes, someone is out to get him. But look at verse 14. But I trusted in thee, O Lord. I said, Thou art my God. My times are in thy hand. Deliver me from the hand of mine enemies and from them that persecute me. Make thy face to shine upon thy servant. Save me for thy mercy's sake. Let me not be ashamed, O Lord, for I have called upon thee. Let the wicked be ashamed. Let them be silent in the grave. Let the lying lips be put to silence, which speak grievous things proudly and contemptuously against the righteous. Oh, how great is thy goodness, which thou hast laid up for them that fear thee, which thou hast wrought for them that trust in thee before the sons of men. Thou shalt hide them in the secret of thy presence. From the pride of man, thou shalt keep them secretly in a pavilion from the strife of tongues. Blessed be the Lord, for he hath showed me his marvelous kindness in a strong city. For I said in my haste, I am cut off from before thine eyes. Nevertheless, thou heard the voice of my supplication when I cried unto thee. That verse, talking about in his haste, he thought God had forgotten about him. He got so wrapped up in everything and he was so overwhelmed by his enemies, he thought that God had just left him to die. In his haste, he made a foolish assumption, but his assumption wasn't true. The truth was that God was and always will be there. Verse 23, O love the Lord, all ye his saints, for the Lord preserveth the faithful and plentifully rewardeth the proud doer. Be of good courage, and he shall strengthen your heart, all ye that hope in the Lord. Who is your hope in this morning? I could preach a whole message on this. I almost kind of want to, right? If your hope's in other people, they're going to fail you and disappoint you. If your hope's in the government, they already disappointed you. Who's your hope in this morning? Because if you're unashamedly hoping and trusting in the Lord, he will reward that. He will preserve you. He will give you the strength you need to get through literally whatever you're going through today. God wants to do that for us. He loves us. He's a loving Father. He's merciful. He's kind. Trust in him. Hope in him. Let's go to the Lord in prayer this time. Dear Heavenly Father, as we are here this morning worshiping your name, as we consider in song the life and the world you've given us, Lord, and that we would attribute the worth and praise and glory to you for what you've done for us. And then, Lord, as we consider this psalm, as we just remember the trials we've been through, or maybe for some in this room, the trials they're going through right now. I don't know everyone's situation. There might be somebody in this room right now that is so overwhelmed, so overloaded, just so busy with life, so hurt by their enemies and their critics. Lord, help us this morning to remember how powerful and good you are. Help everyone in this room to trust in you, to hope in you, because, Lord, we know that you will bless those who hope and trust in you. We know, God, that while we might feel alone at times, you will never forsake us. Lord, help us to always remember that. As we continue to worship this morning and as we continue to sing, Father, I pray that you'd help each and every one of us to lay aside the burdens and the anxiety and whatever else is weighing us down this morning, and help us just to focus on the worship of the Lord this morning. Pray you touch each of our hearts as we continue our study. Be glorified by all that we do here, we pray in Jesus Christ's name. Amen. Let's stand together again as we continue to worship the Lord.
Page 693, A Shelter in the Time of Storm. The Lord's our rock, in him we hide, a shelter in the time of storm. Secure whatever ill betide, a shelter in the time of storm. Oh, Jesus is a rock in a weary land, a weary land, a weary land. Oh, Jesus is a rock in a weary land, a shelter in the time of storm. A shade by day, defense by night, a shelter in the time of storm. No fears alarm, no foes affright, a shelter in the time of storm. Oh, Jesus is a rock in a weary land, a weary land, a weary land. Oh, Jesus is a rock in a weary land, a shelter in the time of storm. O rock divine, O refuge dear, a shelter in the time of storm. Be thou our helper ever near, a shelter in the time of storm. Oh, Jesus is a rock in a weary land, a weary land, a weary land. Oh, Jesus is a rock in a weary land, a shelter in the time of storm. And right across the page, 692, let's sing, God Will Take Care of You. Be not dismayed, whate'er betide, God will take care of you. Beneath his wings of love abide, God will take care of you. God will take care of you through every day or all the way. He will take care of you. God will take care of you. Through days of toil when heart doth fail, God will take care of you. When dangers fierce your path assail, God will take care of you. God will take care of you through every day or all the way. He will take care of you. God will take care of you. No matter what may be the task, God will take care of you. Lean weary one upon his breast, God will take care of you. God will take care of you through every day or all the way. He will take care of you. God will take care of you. Y'all may be seated, and ushers, if you would come forward, we'll take our offering this morning. Brother Mark, would you ask the blessing, please?
Thank you so much, ladies, for that. Love that. Well, thank you all for being here. We're excited to have a good full house today. At this time, we're going to dismiss our kids to junior church. So all the young people, 6th grade and below, head right on out the back there with Miss Heather. And, Brother David's going too, I guess. He's going to go hang out with the kid. No, I'm just kidding. You got to stay in here. You can't, I know they're going to have fun, but no. Well, we're in 1 Samuel chapter 10. If you'd go ahead and turn there. And as you make your way to 1 Samuel chapter 10, I want to thank you all again for being here. Again, if you're a guest, please stop by the Welcome Center. If you're a teenager, we'd love to see you here tonight at 6 o'clock for a good time of fellowship. Invite your friends out. It'll be a wonderful time together. And I want to thank, we have some special guests here in town as well. I have the Hales, our missionary family here. The Hales, I've known them since college days. When I was a Bible college student at Heartland in Oklahoma City, they presented, might have been my first or second year there. It was pretty early on, and I remember even at one of the dinners sitting across the table from Brother Hale and just enjoyed him. It's been an encouragement to me from afar. I don't know if he even realizes it, but I really appreciate his ministry, and we supported them at Central as well, I believe, there in Ponca City. And so a wonderful family. And so last week, the Hale's son and daughter-in-law, Joshua and Rachel, joined last week. And so they're back, not really on an official furlough, just getting some business and things tidied up for a short time, and able to check in on their kids. And glad that Josh is in church, they said, finally. So, no, I'm just kidding, no. But, no, really thankful to have them. And then I got some friends, Andrew and Mariana Snyder are visiting with us. They were visiting some friends in Oklahoma, and they're passing through on their way back home in Alabama. So they're just stopping through here to visit, and they're in services with us today and get by and meet them. They got a precious 2-month-old boy, Peyton. He's a cutie, and so you'll have to get by and say hi to them, welcome them to our services today. And again, anybody else that's here, we're so thankful for you being a part of our services. It's good to see several of you back from vacation and trips and sicknesses. We've had people in and out the last couple of weeks, so it's good to see everybody back where they need to be today. It's always encouraging to see you all. Well, we're in 1 Samuel chapter 10, and I also want to say a huge thank you to everybody who helped us move yesterday. As many of you know, we closed on a home, finally, after living here for several months. And we closed yesterday. We cleaned everything. Several of you came out and helped us clean on Friday. And then yesterday, we had a whole bunch of people. 20, 30 people. I didn't get a good count. We had a bunch of trucks. It was like assembly line. Mount Vernon was busy just because of us. They were back and forth. And we got that thing unloaded. Whoever lives in the neighbors in that neighborhood are got to be scared to death. Like, how big is this family, And so, but no, seriously, thank you all so much for all your help. And moving, we've all moved, right? Moving is one of those things you do not want to do alone. Because when you're moving, that's probably one of the times you feel the most alone, right? It's kind of traumatizing and scary. It's like, this is overwhelming. I got to move all this stuff. And we lived in Oklahoma for 10 years. I did not realize how much junk we collected in 10 years. And then what was really scary is my wife says, we had all that stuff in storage. We didn't use it for 4 months. Might as well just get rid of it all. I said, no. She just wanted an excuse to go buy new stuff. And I said, no, thank you, right? Well, thank you all, again, for helping. Because there are times in life where we feel alone, right? There are times in life where we feel very overwhelmed. The music, man, the hymns were so appropriate for that. Psalm 31 I read intentionally because of that. And I've entitled this morning's message this: everybody gets discouraged sometimes. Isn't that true? Yes. Lots of aggressive head nods. Yes. Everybody gets discouraged sometimes. I didn't get discouraged yesterday because we had so much help and you guys were such a blessing. And I'm generally a pretty cheery guy. I'm an optimistic guy. I like to assume the best about people until they prove otherwise, And I've told you this before, I'm a people pleaser. It's always been my mission since a child just to make people like me. And I'll be honest with you, I've been pretty successful in that mission. I'm pretty easygoing. I don't rub people the wrong way intentionally, I just make it my mission. I want you to like me, right? Makes me feel good. And I'm being really honest with you, I really didn't run into much opposition when it came to just trying to get people to like me in most of my life. My teenage years were great. My youth group years were great. My youth group years at my church were great. My years at college were great. And then going into ministry, everybody at the church we first went to was so loving and gracious, and it was wonderful. And it was kind of an arrogant thing. It was kind of an arrogant thing where, you know what? I can make anybody like me. I had that self-confidence, like I can make everybody. And so far, everybody here likes me, at least to my face, Thank you. And that's the thing, because here's truthfully, not everybody liked me my entire life, but they at least had the decency to be mean behind my back, So I didn't have to know they didn't like me to my face. But there was a season in my ministry, working with teenagers, working with families, it was inevitable that I would rub people the wrong way, that I would upset people. And it finally happened. I was really just trying to invest in this family, and they had a couple rebellious kids. They just did. And I was, in my mind, and I talked to my pastor about it, doing the right thing, of going to the parents and just explaining some of the things that I had seen. And most parents are always like, hey, if you see something in my kid, tell me. Because that's the thing about ministry. We're working together to help each other out. Man, I'm on you. I will always take your side. I want to help you. Now, taking your side doesn't mean that I'm just going to agree with everything you do, because if you're doing something wrong, taking your side means I'm going to help you see the error. Because I want you to help me see my errors, because I'm not always right. I'm definitely not always right. Right? So we need each other to keep each other accountable in that way, right? And so I really thought I was doing these parents a favor, and they'd even invited that in the past. And so I go and I say, hey, here's some things I'm concerned about your kids. And immediately became very defensive. Immediately excused it and said, no, it's not my kids. It's actually the other kids in the youth group that are doing it. And I said, hey, listen, there are plenty of other rotten kids in the youth group. I don't disagree with you there, but there are just some issues specific to your children that I think we need to address. And it's always kind of kept pushing it off and kept saying, it's not my kids. And started blaming the rest of the youth group. And then eventually, of course, they started blaming me. They said, you're creating a culture. You're doing this. We have just a horrible, rotten group of kids. I didn't know that. I told my pastor. He didn't know that either. He's like, I actually thought they were pretty good kids. But apparently, this one family was convinced that we just had a youth group full of rotten, horrible children, right? And I'm going to be really honest with you. It wasn't a huge deal, especially at first, but I was letting it get under my skin. You know how we're prone to do that? Especially when you're like me and you're a people pleaser and your whole objective and your arrogance is, out of control, where you think, I'm going to make everybody like me, and then all of a sudden somebody doesn't like me. And it really was kind of coming to a head one summer, and one of their kids literally looked at me we were on an event together, and we're walking and having issues with him. He was being really disrespectful to some people, and I was kind of scolding him, and he looks at me and he says, Brother Tim, I'm going to try to get you fired. I said, go ahead, because I kind of need a vacation. So, I was getting like, I dare you. No, that got me. I have never had someone so mad at me that they want to hurt me like that. And listen, this is a little kid. This is a teenager, immature, struggling, sinful. I shouldn't have let what he said get under my skin like it did. But then when we got back from the event and I talked to the parents, and they continued to take their kid's side. And we had a big meeting with my pastor and me, and they said, the meeting was basically going to be it was a whole thing, And they said, we're actually just going to leave the church. And my pastor told me after the meeting, he's like, it's not your fault. They made up their mind they were going to do this. And I knew that, and he said that, and he was very supportive, and I appreciated that. But man, it got me. I would say I'm the kind of person that I would have said I've never been depressed in my life. Never. Because I'm a cheery guy, strong-willed, stubborn. I'm fine, right? I hate emotions. I joke with my wife about it all the time. Like, emotions are the worst, right? And I marry a woman, tons of emotions, It's ridiculous. We have a daughter. She's born with emotions. Like, what is this? The boys weren't like this. What's wrong? Oh, emotions, I hate emotions. I don't cry. I'm a man, But that was the first time in my life that I would say I was genuinely depressed. I was down. And a lot of it was my own fault. I'd gotten in my own head. I was thinking about these things too much. And I was deflated. Everybody gets discouraged sometimes. I'm sure we can go around the room. That happened to me years ago. But I imagine represented in this room right now, you have similar stories, not just from years ago, but maybe from like right now. In a room with this many people, I'm confident that there is someone represented here today of any age, any background, and you've been going through it. You are overwhelmed, and you don't get it. Because Pastor just read from Psalm 31, and we just sang songs about how God's always there for me, but I sure don't feel like he's here for me right now. I feel overwhelmed. I feel alone. I feel a bit like a broken vessel, like the psalmist said. Where's this God you speak of? Where's that comfort you promised? I felt like that for a couple of months, to be honest with you. I was broken. I put on a good face. I'm stubborn and I'm arrogant. So I put on a brave face. I was fine. People would say, like, hey, are you doing okay? Oh, yeah, I'm good. Never better. I lied. I was struggling. I'm confident there's people in this room doing the exact same thing. Because when you come to church for like an hour, 2 hours, it's easy to put on the smile. We're so happy. We're the happiest family in the world. We've never been happier. And we're happy to be at church today. You know, that forced smile. Everything's so good. It's not good. You're struggling. In 1 Samuel chapter 10, it's a pretty momentous occasion for the nation of Israel. It's supposed to be a really exciting day. The nation of Israel's finally getting what they want, a king. We've already learned about how God was working behind the scenes to bring Saul along to become the next king over Israel. And so now it's announced to the whole nation. Saul's hiding among the stuff, remember? And they go find Saul, drag him out of the stuff. You're king. All hail the king. Yay. Everybody's so excited. That's where we ended last week. It's a good day. People are celebrating. People are happy. They got what they wanted. 1 Samuel chapter 10. Look at verse 24. And Samuel said to all the people, see ye him whom the Lord hath chosen, that there is none like him among all the people. Remember, he was handsome, he was tall, he was everything they dreamed, and more. And all the people shouted and said, God save the king. Good day. Verse 25. Then Samuel told the people of the manner of the kingdom, and wrote it in a book, and laid it up for the people before the Lord. And Samuel sent all the people away, every man to his house. You'd think we'd be given a little bit more. As detail-oriented as the Bible is, you'd think there'd be like a whole chapter expose of everything Samuel said. This is what God expects of the kingdom. But it doesn't. That's because the Bible isn't just a history book. The Bible contains history, but it's history for our benefit. History for our learning, our edification, our growth. So the purpose of this record wasn't so that we would know how God expected the kingdom to operate. We already knew how God expected the kingdom to operate. We've already been given plenty of instructions and rules and guidelines. We know what God expects of his people. The point of this passage is what comes next. So he gives them the instructions. They write it in a book. They lay it up before the Lord. He sends everyone home. Everyone should be happy, but everyone's not happy. Verse 26. And Saul also went home to Gibeah, and there went with him a band of men whose hearts God had touched. But the children of Belial said, how shall this man save us? And they despised him and brought him no presents, but he held his peace. That's a tough way to end a good day. You remember, Saul didn't actually ask for this, right? He was just kind of a shepherd boy looking for his dad's lost donkeys. And then the prophet of God says, hey, guess what? I'm glad we coincidentally met into each other. It wasn't a coincidence. God's chosen you to be the next king. Me? The smallest tribe and the least family in that tribe, and I'm to be the next king over Israel. You got the wrong guy. No, I've got the right guy. God gave him a new heart. He changed his character. He equipped him to be the man that God wanted him to be, to lead Israel. But even then, we talked about last week, he had second thoughts. He goes and hides from the calling. He runs from what God designed for him. He runs from God's plans, but then he comes out anyways. Everyone's so excited. They're rejoicing. God saved the king. This is a good day in Israel's history. We can see from the context that people would have brought him gifts because that was just a respectful thing to do. He's the new king of Israel. It's a welcoming party. It's a wonderful day. Bring him gifts. Thank him for being a part. Thank you for all he's doing. But not everyone was happy. I imagine, first of all, Saul wasn't very happy. Remember, minutes before this, he was hiding. He was overwhelmed. We've all been there, right? Whether it's new responsibility, a new job, having children. You remember that day? And the nurse comes in and says, you're free to go. Alone? Without adult supervision? With this human being? That's overwhelming. That's scary. I remember that first night without a nurse call button. And we're like, we didn't sleep. You're like listening to the baby monitor. Nowadays, for parents nowadays, my age and younger, we got the whole like movie screens, You can watch your child breathe, because you need to watch your child's chest compressions, right? You need to watch it because listening to it is not enough anymore. And so you've got the sound machine at 500 decibels, so they don't hear anything else. And you've got the baby monitor, and you've got the movie monitor, and right, because that's how we take care of kids nowadays, right? And so but hey, I was there. Trust me, you can judge us young people all you want, but if you'd had the ability to watch a video of your child all night long, you would have done it too with the first one. Now again, with the third one, we didn't care. I'm still why do we have a baby monitor? Whatever, It's more where that came from, kind of thing. So, life's overwhelming sometimes. Saul, a shy shepherd boy, was no doubt overwhelmed. He's I didn't ask for this. And here I am, but what's so cool is what God did for him, right? We'll get to that in a moment. Because God knew Saul's heart. He knew Saul would be overwhelmed. He knew Saul was anxious. He knew Saul was scared out of his mind. Saul had never been a king. He didn't grow up in a king's home, and there wasn't even another king in Israel for him to follow the lead, an example of. He was the first one doing it himself, figuring it all out. And not everyone was excited. So not only was Saul a bit overwhelmed, the Bible says there were some children of Belial who despised him. When's the last time we heard that phrase, children or sons of Belial? It was actually in 1 Samuel, a few weeks ago. Who was it in reference to? Eli's wicked sons. Who did what? They despised the worship of the Lord. They made other people despise coming to the temple because of how wicked and irreverent they were. People I don't even want to go there anymore. This is a joke. Those sons of Belial. It's like an insult. Sons of Satan. You don't call somebody a son of Satan unless they directly oppose God and his plans. So why were these the children of Belial? Because Samuel stood up and said, this is God's plan and this is God's chosen man. And they said, I don't like the plan. I don't care who orchestrated it. Sons of Belial. Children of Belial. They didn't really care that much about Saul. And that's how it is a lot of times. It's not about you as much as it's about the position. It's not about you as much as it's about something you said, right? And that's exactly what it was. Saul didn't do anything. They didn't even know Saul. But they despised him. Look what they said. This says, shall this man save us? Who is this kid? Who does he think he is to be our king? Saul didn't ask for it. And I'm sure as they're hurling these insults at him, he's like, I'm asking the same question. Who am I? What am I doing here? Who is this kid? Who is this? You think he's going to save us from our enemies? This young kid from Benjamin? This nobody from a know-nothing family in a know-nothing town? They despised him. They hated him for no reason. And it says too, and to prove their point, they brought him no gifts. Everyone else is bearing their gifts to the king. We're so thankful. And they walked by. We didn't bring you anything because we don't believe in you. We didn't bring anything because we don't think you're the right guy for the job. Thank you for boosting my morale. It was a deflating end to what was supposed to be a good day. But look what God does. God didn't leave Saul to handle this opposition alone, this criticism. He surrounded him with a band of men. Look at verse 26 again. And Saul arose and went home to Gibeah. Could have ended there, but God did something. It says in verse 26, the last half, and there went with him a band of men whose hearts God had touched. That's the key phrase. That God moved in these men's lives and laid it upon their heart to be an encouragement and a help to Saul with no ulterior motives. Imagine if somebody in this room became vice president of Elon Musk's operations. That individual has access to quite a bit of money and resources and possibly space. I'm going to be that dude's friend, right? Hey, let's hang out. And if you have an empty seat on the spacecraft, just give me a call. Hey, whatever. You want to take me out to dinner? Cool, sounds good, because you got the paycheck for it, right? Come on, let's be honest. This guy's got the resources. I got the means to spend your resources. Let's hang out, right? That's how people think, isn't it? So here's Saul, the newly appointed king over Israel. I imagine people were wanting to flock to Saul. Why? Because he promised them power and fame and wealth. I mean, he wasn't necessarily handing it out, but they're like, let's get in on his inner circle. People that came out of nowhere, they were never his friend before. They never wanted anything to do with Saul. They didn't care about him when he was a nobody, but now he's the king. Let's hang out with the king. I want to be the king's best friend. I want to be in the palace every day. I want to be a leader in Israel. I'm hanging out with the king. That wasn't these men's heart because God had touched their heart. And these men didn't go hang out with Saul so that they could become lords over Israel. They didn't hang out with Saul so that they could put their hands in the king's bank account. They didn't hang out with Saul because they were looking for something. No, they were just looking to help the man out because they knew about these critics. I imagine they're probably sitting there in the masses and they're hearing Samuel talk and they hear these critics behind him, these children of Belial. I didn't pick this king. I don't know what God was thinking. Because that's not the kind of guy I would have picked. Who is this kid? This is ridiculous. I don't know. I'm reading into it. I'm visualizing what might have happened. So here are these people who are in tune with God and they're sensitive to what God's doing. And they hear these critics back here and they're like, we need to shield this young man from the opposition. We need to shield this man and encourage him because he's going to be slandered. He's going to be despised. He's going to be hated. And he needs a group of people around him who are going to hold him up in his darkest hour. A band of men whose hearts God had touched. I love that. And I think we need more of that. Because we live in a world full of critics, don't we? We do. And the internet's only made it worse. Have you ever been on Facebook and seen like those community pages? Boy, if you need some entertainment, join a community Facebook page. They're just complaint departments. That's all they are. But they're not complaining to anyone but each other, you know? And you'll get a picture of a house like, I can't believe somebody's yard looks like this. Oh my goodness, I was driving down this and the police did this and all, right? It's entertaining, but it's heartbreaking at the same time. We live in a world full of critics. They're bullies. Our world's always had bullies, hasn't it? You either were one or you were bullied by one. Right? They're everywhere. Critics. People for seemingly no reason who just want to attack you. They want to slander you. They want to make you feel bad. I've always heard that hurting people hurt people. I think it's true. So what are they doing? They want to make themselves feel better by making you feel worse. Here's Saul, cloud 9. Like he was already kind of scared, but now everybody's bringing him gifts. Like, okay. Everybody's like, God save the king. That's me. This is so cool. And then along comes these critics. You're a loser. You're not my king. I don't think you're going to succeed. You're going to fail. Who do you think you are? Right? The world's full of critics. You've got your critics. I've got my critics. It's hard. It's overwhelming. It's frustrating. What are we supposed to do when we face these critics? How are we supposed to navigate these difficult times? Well, God gives us the answer right here in His Word. So here's a couple principles we can learn from this right here. One more obscure one I want to hit, and then I want to hit kind of the main one. Look at verse 27 again. But the children of Belial said, how shall this man save us? And they despised him and brought him no presents. What would you have done? Would you have lashed out? Would you have said, fine, I don't want your presents? They're probably gross anyways. I don't know, whatever, right? Make yourself feel better. Retaliate. Tell people, those people are jerks. We don't like them, do we? Let's pick sides. What did Saul do? But he held his peace. You know the Bible's inspired, right? We talked about that. Everything's in the Bible for a reason. Why did God choose to record that? Because it was a wise response. And we know it's a wise response because it's not just recorded here. James chapter 1, verse 19 and 20 says, wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear. What's the next phrase? Slow to speak. Slow to wrath. For the wrath of man worketh not the righteousness of God. Why did God record Saul's response? Because we all have critics. And when a critic attacks, we don't need to stoop to their level. We need to be slow to respond. We need to hold our peace. Because when you're angry, do you always say the wisest things? Don't raise your hand. Think about this. How many of us have done things we regret because we were angry? Everyone? right? Yeah, all the time. Oh, why did I say that? Why did I do that? I didn't mean it. Yes, you did because you said it. Yeah. Hold your tongue. Hold your peace. We all have critics. Our mission as Christians isn't to squash our critics, because we're going to have critics no matter what. Because guess what? Being a Christian, we got more critics. It's already hard to live life because of critics and bullies. Now we're children of God trying to live righteously in a wicked world, and it's only going to get worse. Guess what? People are going to mock us for our stand for Christ. People are going to mock us because we're faithful to church. People are going to mock us because we view marriage differently, and we value marriage between one man and one woman. And we believe what the Bible says. Oh, that's so archaic. You don't think women can be in leadership? Well, you don't believe women can be pastors. Why? The Bible says it. That's so old-fashioned, you bigot. Right? It's hard to be a Christian. It's hard to follow God in this world today. So you know what we should do? We should get on Facebook and we should let them have it. You punks. No. You know what we should do? Slow to speak, slow to wrath. We should hold our peace. Why? James 1:20, for the wrath of man worketh not the righteousness of God. Why should I hold my peace? Because you're going to say something to hurt your testimony and the reputation of Jesus Christ. Because if somebody knows you're a child of God and you're just going to lash out and retaliate and stoop to their level, you have not proven to people that God is indeed superior and better. He is. We don't need to prove it. We don't need to defend God. He doesn't need your help. Doesn't need my help. He's got this. Let's hold our peace. I love that response. But the more significant truth here is this. In verse 26, that when Saul went home to Gibeah, there went with him a band of men whose hearts God had touched. Church, you're going to be overwhelmed. You're going to be depressed. You're going to experience anxiety. You're going to feel alone. So what should you do in a moment like that? You need to find a group of people to encourage you. Did you know that God knew you would need a group of people to encourage you? He already thought of this. If you were here for Sunday school, we talked about the doctrine of the church. We didn't talk a lot about the purpose of the church. We've talked about that a little bit in the past. But you know what the purpose of the church is? The edification of believers. Edification means to build up and strengthen in every way. Not just in the Word. Like, that's the most important. We need to know the Word and learn the Word. But as we build up each other and strengthen each other in the Word, what it also does is we build up and strengthen each other emotionally, physically, financially, even if needed. Why? Because the church is supposed to be a band of men and women whose hearts God has touched. That's what the church is supposed to be. So when you're looking for your band of men because you feel alone and overwhelmed and anxious and depressed, don't look for it in the world, because the world will never satisfy. Don't look for it from a lost person who doesn't have the hope of Christ in their life. Why? Because of Psalm 31. We need to trust in the Lord. He is my hope. He is my defense. He is my strong tower. He is the one who will always be there for me, and he will never leave me. And we know we have God. We know God will always be there, but God also knows us because he made us. And he knows sometimes we need that physical touch. And yes, we know God is there, but sometimes we still feel alone. And that's why God gave us the church, so that we could come together and we could love on each other and we could encourage one another and we could pray for one another. That's what a church is supposed to be. So there's two conclusions from this. If you feel alone, overwhelmed, discouraged, depressed, broken, we're here for you. This church is here for you because God called us to do that. We're supposed to edify you. We're supposed to build you up. We're supposed to hold your hand when you're walking through the fire. That's what the church is doing. I understand why people do this, but at the same time, I don't understand. Why is it when people are going through the darkest seasons of their life, they just clam up and hide it from everybody? Right? Guilty? I mean, most of us don't mind talking about our like little annoyances and our little problems. I went to Walmart the other day, and they were out of my favorite tortilla chips. They were, genuinely. Like, this is actually a complaint. The Nixa Walmart, I don't know who's in charge of ordering stuff, but they need to pick up their game. Because I have a specific type of tortilla chip, and they were out, and I was mad. I had to buy the lesser brand. I was very sad. I don't mind complaining about that. But why is it when you are truly overwhelmed and broken and everything in your life is falling apart, you clam up? And you don't tell people. That's the time you need a band of men and women the most. The church isn't here so that we can hear your problems and gossip about you. We're here so we can pray for you, so we can love on you, so we can help you. Man, what happened yesterday when I moved? I was just moving. It was such a beautiful display of the family of God, of people working together. My family felt so loved in that moment. That you guys would take a couple hours of your day on a Saturday to help us. Use your own fuel and your own resources and your own energy to be a blessing to us. And several of you made meals for us. That's wonderful. That's what a church is supposed to be for everyone in this church. That brings me to the second point, which is this. Not only should you go to the church when you're in need, but church, we need to be sensitive to the needs of others. Church is not about what I can get. It's not. I hope you're getting something. I hope you're getting fed from the Word. I hope you are getting encouraged by others, but it's also about what you can give. God has called us collectively to contribute to the church, and we do that by investing in one another. Nowhere in the Bible does it say that the pastor is the only encourager in the church. It doesn't say that. Because if that's the case, you guys are up a creek without a paddle. Let me tell you, I am not the best encourager, so you better pray people step up, right? Right? Because it's the church's responsibility that we become a band of men for somebody. By just being aware of other people's needs. You can't do that if you don't get to know people, though. So if you're just going to kind of hide in your corner and be reclusive about it, hey, I get you're shy. I get shy. I understand that, right? Especially being new to the church, like, I don't really want to just get to know everybody, all right? I don't want to invite them over to my house. I don't know who they are, right? You all know where my house is now, so we're going to get burglarized, I guess. But whatever, we got to get to know each other. Because when we get to know each other, we get to love on each other. When we get to love on each other, we're invested in each other's needs. And I'm going to know when something's wrong with you. And you're going to know when something's wrong with me. And even though I might want to hide it from you a little bit, you're like, no, I know you too well. I want to pray with you. Because you know what I want to see at Victory Baptist Church? I want to see members praying with members. I want to see people counseling people. I want to see people encouraging and uplifting each other so that when you've got a need over here, you know that this family is going to come right to your side because it's a band of men and women whose hearts God has touched. I want that. We all want that, but we also should want to be that. I hope as we conclude this morning's message, church, that you will let God touch your heart this morning and that you will be sensitive to the needs of others. And you're going to see somebody who might be a little bit overwhelmed. You're going to see somebody who's gone through the ringer. You're going to see somebody who's depressed, and you're going to say, I want to help that person. I can't give you much. I can't give you $1 million. I can't fix all your problems, but I can pray with you, and I can love on you, and I can be present for you because I care about you. Because God compelled me to be there for you. That's what a church is. And quite honestly, I know that Victory Baptist Church has grown, and we have seen more people come back to Victory because that spirit does exist here. So this message this morning is not a, we need to do better, we need to love people. It's not that at all. It's more of a, let's keep up the good work. We've got a really loving church here. Let's get to know each other a little bit more. We got some new people here. Let's get to know each other a little bit more. Let's keep loving on each other so that we can encourage each other. We can pray with each other. Let's all stand. I'll invite the pianist.